Emily Matthews with RE/MAX Universal. If you're planning to sell your home in the next 3 to 6 months, you want to avoid these common mistakes. What you're going to learn here is 3 potential process mistakes, 5 possible pricing errors, what projects net the biggest return on investment. So here are the process mistakes. The first one is not having or not following a plan. Plans include deadlines. Deadlines help you to prepare because they give you a goal to work towards. So many people have told me they found having a deadline was very helpful. If you are also buying, please do not look at houses unless your house is ready to list. This is a schematic that I developed that can show how to arrive at a plan. Focusing on the wrong upgrades is the second mistake. Over the years, I've heard some really startling pieces of advice that people were given. One person was told that they had to install an entire new kitchen in order to sell their house. This is extreme overkill, and I would never do it unless my cabinets literally were falling apart. And I mean doors coming off and that kind of thing. The second mistake was centered around granite countertops. One case was a very modest starter home, and the idea was that granite countertops would somehow be the thing for this house. It didn't fit the character of the home. It would be out of place. It didn't fit the price bracket. So granite countertops were useless in that situation. The other situation was a higher-end house where they thought they had to do granite countertops, but all they really needed to do was paint. And the third piece of advice, someone said that they thought they needed to replace a roof if it was 9 years old. My response is there's a lot of life left in a 9-year-old roof. And all of this could cost you money that you really don't need to spend. The third mistake is not understanding time factors. This is related to the time you're going to need to fix things or do any kind of projects that you're planning to do. It could also be related to legal things like getting easements. You want to get all kinds of legal issues settled before you list the house. You might have to wait for supplies. You might have to wait for contractors. And again, I said before, you do not want to find your dream home too soon and then panic because your house isn't ready to sell. Time factors also include the seasons. There are certain seasons that are very beneficial for sellers compared to the rest of the year. I can tell you when that is at a different time, but just suffice it to say you don't want to list your house totally depending on the seasons, but if it doesn't matter to you, then try to pick the season that's going to help you. This is not typically considered a good time to list, but there are some benefits to listing your house during the holidays because you don't have a lot of competition and serious buyers do have time off and they might be getting bonuses. It's not always the best time, but it can work. Continuing on, we'll look at errors that can cost you when you want to list a property. Pricing strategy errors. The first one is not knowing what defines a comp. Home sellers often make this mistake because they assume that something in their neighborhood is similar, comparable to theirs. Here's why this is a misunderstanding. It can neglect structural differences. For example, a wood siding versus brick, or a ranch versus a 2-story. It can leave out features like a fireplace or a patio. Square footage has to be considered, and the year built absolutely must be considered. So if your neighbor's house was built in 2008 and yours was built in 1911, that neighbor's house is not comparable to yours. Inexperienced agents sometimes also make this mistake. Not using statistics to figure appreciation is the second mistake. Usually we don't have to go back in time to find comps, but if you have an unusual house, sometimes it has to be done. And you have to calculate the appreciation or depreciation using MLS statistical tools. Just always remember that appraisers are going to use sold properties. and they usually try to go back no more than 6 months, but sometimes they have to go older. Not separating sold from active is the third mistake. It's very common practice. I call it a mistake because nobody knows what those houses that are currently listed, nobody knows what they're going to sell for. They could sell for more, they could sell for less. We just don't know. So they belong in a separate data set. I developed this as part of my home sales system. Rhetorical question. Will an appraiser use an active listing? The answer is no, they won't. You have to see your competition the way a buyer is going to see it, though. So your first part of a comparative market analysis is sold properties that are very similar in style and age to yours. The second part is the competition part. If you have a ranch for sale, a buyer is going to be looking at that, but they're also going to be looking at maybe Cape Cods and 2-stories and tri-levels that are in the same price bracket. Your competition is going to be all of those houses, and buyers are always comparing. You also want to know how many houses you're up against. Is it only 2 or 3, or is it 23? The fourth mistake, using a square foot formula or trying to figure something with assessed value. The price per square foot is really not accurate unless you're building new. Builders have to use a price per square foot to calculate how much to charge you. Zillow tries to use it, and we have kind of a joke that the A in Zillow stands for accuracy. They can't get away with this very well in Wisconsin because we have mixed housing stock all over the place. In places like Arizona, there are giant subdivisions with identical houses. A Zillow formula might work okay there, but it doesn't really work here, and I have the pictures and screenshots to prove it. So, to give you a case, identical houses both built in 1985. A was upgraded, B is original. Which one's going to sell for more? You can figure that out yourself. The second part of this is trying to figure some sort of fancy formula based on a sale price in ratio to the assessed value. I've had people that tried to do that. They took the sale price, they said the assessed value, and then they figured this fancy ratio and tried to apply it to their own house. It's not going to work, especially when the styles of the houses are different. You have to remember, some houses are overassessed. Now, the tax people are not going to say that, but if it sells for less than assessed value, the buyer can take this to open book and challenge the assessed value. I know it says fair market value, but assessed value is really for taxes. Please remember that. And some cities don't update until they're forced to, and their assessed value might be super low, and you might think, oh, why is this? This is such a big problem. It's really not. All it means is they don't see the need to raise taxes. Cherry picking. This is a mistake, and I call it a mistake, even though it's standard, very commonplace to use just 3 comps. Because which ones do you pick? If you have 9 comps, are you going to pick the most expensive, the least expensive, ones in the middle? What are you going to do? I believe it's best to use as many data points as possible because more data equals more statistical significance. And in my system, I use the most data I can get my hands on. Sometimes I can only literally find 2 comps, but sometimes I can find 7 or even more. Next section, which projects are going to get you the biggest return on investment? Here's a list. You can see here that getting a hardwood floor redone is supposed to be the best thing you can do, and that's because the wood is already there, and people really go for nice new hardwood floors. They prefer hardwood to vinyl plank most of the time. A new roof, garage door, siding, these are all things that can get you a return on investment, but you want to do them not to sell the house, but because you want a new garage door or you want new windows. You'll notice that a kitchen update is only supposed to get about 72% return on investment, which is why you don't want to install a brand new kitchen to sell your house. In my experience, every time it's been paint. It's been the difference, painting has been the difference between selling and even not selling. There are some issues that can affect your house and there's nothing you can do about it. If you're close to power lines, cell towers on a busy road or even a highway, or if you have some not so nice neighbors, unfortunately that will affect your price, and that's all you can do is adjust your price because you can't change the power lines or the busy road. And the final section, to review, we had the process mistakes, pricing errors, greatest ROI, and now let me ask you something. What is your next level? What kind of house do you want to get next time? How will you reach your goals? One option is to just assume or guess what needs to be done and try to do it all yourself. You could make the wrong assumptions. It could take too long. You might take too much on and get discouraged, overwhelmed, and never really know if you're using a system or just guessing it, just winging it. It could end up costing you time and money. The other option is to plan the process so you can get your home ready to sell without frustration, anxiety, or overwhelm. You get this home score evaluation that I talked about. The points have to be 85 or better for an easy sale, and you get the other resources. All I ask is that when it's time to list your house, call me and give me the chance to interview for the job, because the best way I can demonstrate how to help is actually to help you.
And that's it for now. This is Emily Matthews here to help you with all your real estate needs. Don't forget to subscribe. It's the little icon with my head on it. Have a wonderful day.